Okay, well, g'day. This is the Iron Horse channel here again, just trying to make a bit of a conversation. I was just in the middle of another one of these toxic globe earth debaters. God damn, the phone's already moving. They are so toxic. Like even the host had a thing saying that if you're a flat earther, you are not a nice person. What the fuck, man? Flat earthers are some of the nicest people in the world. All we care about is the truth. If we had proof and evidence for the spinning space ball hurtling through the vacuum of space, we would not deny it. I'd be the first. I was the first. I used to absolutely believe the globe. Something shocking. I absolutely, if I was told the sun is 250,000 miles away, the moon, the sun is 93 million miles away. I believe it. I had no reason to doubt these high priests of scientism telling us all these stories. But the fact is, when you try and talk to these glurfs, like you got this Bob the science guy, he's one of the worst. He's so lowbrow. Seriously, Bob, you are bad. You are terrible. You and your buddies, you're talking about using simple geometry. Grade 3 geometry, some of them said it's grade 8, which I guess for the Americans, maybe it is grade 8. That's the sort of shit we were doing in grade 3 and 4. It was the simple 3, 4, 5 triangle. When you were looking into the distance at something, you were not using simple geometry anymore. That's why you have to comprehend perspective. That the greater the distance you were seeing, the further and further you look, the more and more distance is existing in less and less visible physical space. So when you're looking out to the road, the first 100 meters might fill 50% of your perspective, but the next 2.5 or 4 kilometers fills the next 50%, and the last tenth of that is probably 3 kilometers. Just a basic guess. You are not looking into a simple geometric shape once you start applying distance, because more and more distance is existing in less and less space. It should be a really simple thing for people to understand. That's why you cannot triangulate to the moon. You cannot triangulate to the sun. This is honestly, it should be something they teach the kids in school, but obviously they didn't. And that's a problem, because now we have people like Bob, who's probably in his 50s, who thinks he's a science teacher, but he doesn't even have 8th grade understanding of simple perspective. You know, everything in the distance as it slopes away is going to show greater and greater distance in less and less space. You cannot use geometry to calculate shit when it comes to that. All you can do at the very most, is carry a tape measure out. This freaking phone keeps falling. Jeez. I'm not going to use the kettle as a freaking phone stand again next time. It's not a good phone stand. All you can do is take a physical tape measure out and measure the distance. Take it up to the moon, measure the physical distance, and then you would have something to work on. The other one that nobody wants to listen to is when you've got your magical Nikon P900 zoom camera. You can zoom in on things on the horizon, like a oil rig or a ship, things far in the distance. You can work out the actual distance to where they are and see the amount of clarity that you are zooming in on them at. Then you take it and you look at the moon and you zoom in on the moon, you get greater clarity at the moon because it is nearer. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Iron Horse is crazy. He thinks the moon is 12 to 14 miles high. But it's not the moon. It's the projection of light that hits our atmosphere that only reaches to 12 to 14 miles high, where it creates the plasma holographic projection of the moon from the actual moon, which is probably 60 to 70 miles high. The thing which is going to pass in front of the sun in another, what's today, the 29th, in another 10 days. It's going to pass in front of the sun. It's going to eclipse it. We never see a new moon because it's in the daytime and all the solar energy is reflected back towards the sun. That's the way all our phases work. When it reflects that solar radiant energy down into firmament B at 12 to 14 miles high, that's what creates our apparition of the moon we see. So technically it is creating its own light by projecting solar radiant energy down into firmament B. The actual moon is almost as high as the sun, at about 70 miles high, as the sun passes through the firmament. Got a few more minutes, because the other thing when our live stream just got thrown off the air because I was arguing about it, why is there night on the globe Earth? If the sun is shining all this light throughout the universe from 93 million miles away, then the tiny little shadow of the Earth would be insufficient to block all the sunlight to give us night. All we'd see is a tiny little shadow. Some guy even talked about using a ball, shining a torch on it, and somehow that ball is going to block all the light from reaching the far wall of a room. For crying out loud, what is wrong with people? That is not how light works. As I was trying to describe, the reason light works is when it hits gross physical matter, it illuminates something. That is why we see it coming through our firmament, because it is gross physical matter. And then when it gets even further down, all the way down to firmament B, 12 to 14 miles high, it hits our atmosphere, the ozone layer, the waters above, all the atmospheric gases, and they fluoresce in the energy of the sun. It can only work for the globe in a similar sort of way. If the sunlight isn't hitting those atmospheric gases, it's not going to glow, and that's why we've got the darkness of night. But they couldn't accept that. Simple concepts that even if the Earth was still a globe, you would have to accept that to be the truth. Obviously, it's not a globe. The sun just goes further away. The twilight eventually fades. We get our evening. The stars appear. The sun takes 24 hours to make a full circuit around the equator. Simple, flat Earth truths that globers have just got nothing, not a clue about. They don't even realise that if a light is going away from you, it should appear to be going slower. Now, fair enough, the speed of light, it should be insignificant because they say the speed of light is the speed of light. But then they go and say, well, all the stars are thousands and thousands of light years away, and yet we see the same ones all the time. There's so much that can do your head in if you listen to a glober. Bring your senses down into simple, sane understanding of reality. The flat Earth is the only thing that makes sense. I'll be back.